Sumaya Unveiled. Today we have Dr. Kevin Hairston joining us. Dr. Kevin Hairston is a pastor, an author, a motivational speaker, and he also happens to be my former youth pastor from many, many years ago. And I'm super excited to catch up with him today. Thank you for joining me as we welcome this episode entitled Dr. Kevin Hairston Unveiled. Welcome, Dr. Kevin Hairston. I want to thank you. And I want to tell you that I haven't told you this because I haven't talked to you in several years, probably since high school, but I can remember you and Minister Jeff and Minister Moore at New Salem Missionary Baptist Church with the amazing Pastor Keith A. Troy and his lovely wife, Brenda. I was in middle school years into high school years, but I can remember, Dr. Hairston, just how genuine you were. And you took being a youth pastor seriously, and it really meant a lot to me as a teenager because, as you know, teenagers pick up on everything. They sniff everything out. They want to make sure people are real, people are genuine and authentic. And I just remember that I looked forward every single time we had our youth Bible studies, and all of you guys just ministered. And it wasn't that you just talked to us, but you talked with us. We engaged in real conversation. I could tell that you thoroughly studied and making sure that we understood the word, and you answered any questions that we had. And I just want to tell you, I greatly appreciate you for that. And I want to thank you.
Samaya, I am so glad to be with you. I'm just proud to even say that I served as your youth pastor. So to see you now and what you're doing, I think is the most wonderful thing that I've experienced thus far.
So I feel like you guys are the blueprint because you didn't just talk at us, you talked with us. You engaged with us. You allowed us to ask questions. You gave us feedback. You let us also share feedback as well. And it was just a joy just to go through that journey. And I can truly say that your teachings and your lessons that I received in middle school and high school were just one of the pillars that I stand on. So thank you so much for being that in my life.
No, I thank you for your words, and actually, that's encouraging to hear. In all honesty, I think so many who were serving with me in ministry at that time, and even those of us, man, who still have those relationships to this day. Some of the names that you named, we still have a great relationship to this day, and we serve together. For me, Samaya was always about, God had been graceful in my own life, and so that was a period of time where God was kind of teaching me how to work inside of relationships with a generation that was coming behind me, to young people like yourself who, each week we saw the potential. But while you were growing, God was trying to grow myself and others around me in the same way. And so that same grace that was being extended to myself was the same grace that I took in terms of ministry. It was a privilege to be able to go, God had called us into this environment where we get a chance to give back to lives of other people. And so I always just considered a privilege to work with all of you, because there was a group of young people who were intelligent, who were going to keep you on your toes. That mean, and you guys came to the class motivated not just about the Lord, but just about the intelligence that you were bringing. And so I'm thankful for those moments because those moments help transform me later on, not to take the environment for granted. Like they're gonna show up, so you need to show up. You got to put the time in and put the homework in. But at the same time, God also was challenging myself and others, to not be too high up on the mountain, but to try to give the information in a relative way. And so I'm thankful for that time period because it again helped formulate me as I began to get older and do some other things in ministry. Was to learn how to be myself inside of the Lord, and so I'm grateful for those moments, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that was in the 90s. So for me to still remember how great you were and how well you handled that says a lot. And I also remember your sweet wife, Mia. I love her so much. Mia, if you're watching, hi, I'm sending you the biggest hug. She is just a wonderful person, a beautiful person. And both of you guys, again, even at that time, you guys weren't that much older than me, but I truly looked up to you guys, and I still do, even present day. But just back then, just to have that example, being a young person and wanting someone, wanting to be like people who weren't that much older than me, but were still cool without trying to be cool and still had standards. And what I loved about your wife, Mia, was so much grace, so much love, so much humility, so much humanity. Like she just carried herself with all of that. And the two of you together, just a powerhouse.
Well, if you don't mind me kind of just backing up just a moment though, because I want to give that shout out to my wife, man, who actually I met during that time. We were in Sunday school class together during that same period of time, and for us to be on the doorstep of being together for 30 years, it's a compliment, to how God again was crafting us both inside that environment as young people, only to be in ministry together and do life together, raise a child together, and just encourage and motivate each other and push each other. And that's what our relationship has always been a compliment for. And so I'm thankful for those days too, because that's like, again, that's when I met, the queen of my life.
I know that being a youth pastor was near and dear to your heart, and it speaks to your heart even now, present day. It's not a surprise at all. I'm not the least bit surprised that you are now a children's book author because you have clearly, for over 20 or 30 years, you've had a heart for young people. So I'd like to know. I know you have books for all ages, but where did you discover the desire to speak to young people through literature?
For me, Samaya, it was really about what motivated me was the idea. It's actually intimidating when you think about writing a book, because we can go into a bookstore every day and look at books on a shelf or go through a library or even go to school, and we're intimidated by the idea that maybe perhaps we can be that person who crafts together material like that maybe perhaps somebody else would want to read or want to buy. And so it's very intimidating. But for me, I was encouraged after actually towards the end of me putting together my dissertation, because the dissertation was a compilement of information that once it's all put together, I mean, you got this huge document. I think my dissertation was like over 300 some pages. But way this craft and put together is not like it was done overnight. And so that gave me the confidence to go, okay, I've got these ideas that are motivated by trying to help other people, whether or not it was a book about forgiveness or a book about reaching your potential or a book about marriage. I got these ideas. The dissertation process helped me to process how to put things down on paper collectively and bring it together. And so my inspiration and motivation from writing came out of me having multiple conversations with people, especially in ministry, again about how to propel their lives in a positive way. The motivation was putting it down on paper so that you could, push it out and multiple number of people could read it. And so that was really where it came from. That process and me completing the dissertation process gave me the courage to go, whatever is inside my head and my heart, I can put it down on paper and I can turn this into a book.
That's powerful. And I think what's super awesome about it is that people can always go back and revisit it. So it's not like you can just drop it on them and then they're done, but you can go back and read it again and really consider the truths that you outline in your book. So I just want to know, because you've written so many books. And by the way, guys, if you want to check out Dr. Harrison's books, and we'll cover this a little bit later, go to www.kevinharrison.org after this show to check out his books. There are so many books that you've written. And I'm just wondering, do you have a favorite book? Out of all the books you've written, do you have a favorite one?
Well, it's interesting because I get that question all the time. Matter of fact, I was out of town and I was having dinner and got into a conversation with somebody who I did not know, and they said, "What's your favorite book?" And I said, "I don't have a favorite. Whatever book is in front of me at the time, or whatever idea is in front of me, that's my favorite." But I said, really, when I look at each one of them, they were birth. They, you know, they I gave we gave birth to this idea, and we and in the book, as you just pointed out, memorialized the idea that someone can read now, and they can read 10 years from now. Prayerfully, they're reading 50 years from now, and hopefully, man, it still makes the same type of impact. And so, for me right now, Little Charles in the Time Machine, meet Abraham Lincoln. That's my baby, because it's given me the opportunity in the near future to go to different cities and be able to promote it. This spring and next fall has given me the opportunity to go into the classroom to talk to kids, whether or not they're in elementary school or in child care centers, about history. And so it's in a playful way, really trying to grab hold of history. And even though some kids are learning about Abraham Lincoln, the Emancipation Proclamation. There are some in our world today, at least in our country, who are trying to take the history away, and so this gives motivation to being able to share what I call wonderful history with a number of kids across the country.
I think that's outstanding. I'm a former teacher. I taught high school English, so I definitely appreciate your desire and willingness to have a responsibility for history and to make sure that it is infused in literature so that the next generation that's coming behind us are able to pick up and see where we come from in order to thoroughly understand where we currently are and where we need to go. So that is outstanding. And I want to dig a little bit deeper into Little Charles and the Time Machine meet Abraham Lincoln, which first, let me say the title alone is very enticing. I can imagine even being a kid and thinking, Time Machine, little, I'm little. Abraham Lincoln, I know who that is. I feel like there were enough keywords in the title to draw children and enough keywords in the title to allow responsible adults to consider and say, wait a minute, if I want my child to be intelligent and raise their literacy and make sure that they're not just reading cool kid stuff, but informative stories that will engage them, this is a book that I need to grab immediately. So I think that this is wonderful. But first of all, the name alone, Little Charles and the Time Machine meet Abraham Lincoln. Please tell me how you landed on this title.
Well, everything that I've been blessed to be able to write about is always inspired from somewhere. Um, when I wrote Cradle Games, I had this idea about my nephew, kind of being the Ethan Hawke or the Tom Cruise of the storyline. And so when I wrote the book and had some other characters around him, um, most people who are in my inner circle know that all of those characters are either my daughter or my nephews and my goddaughter. So they're all kind of based on real life people inside of the books. And so Little Charles was actually inspired because my dad's first name is Charles. And so when I was young, in elementary, some of his friends who may not have been able to call my name, maybe they met me for the very first time, would refer to me as Little Charles. And so I thought when we put together this book, I wanted to do something that honored my dad in a way in which it still was a play off of a name that was reference to myself. And so, when we put this book together, I really felt, that he would be proud to be kind of that inspiration of that little boy who could not only dream, but also go back in history and remember those things that played a significant turning point in terms of all of our lives.
I think that's remarkable. And I truly believe that as people read your books to their children, as parents, aunties, uncles, teachers, whoever it is, that it will also speak to them because imagination is not solely for children. It's for us. It's for those of us who can grow up and forget to use it. And why would you say that it's important to kind of lead with imagination, especially when you're looking at pursuing goals and dreams or thinking outside of the box? Why would you say that imagination or being imaginative is crucial?
Well, I went back into my own childhood and said, what was one of the most fun parts of the school day? It was when we had recess and we went out on the playground. As much as most people would probably say, oh, it was English class or gym. For me, it was a gathering point of all my friends and, some of the other people who were in other classrooms who I associated with. We met out on the playground. And I thought it was a significant time to be able to talk about how we use our imagination when we go out there. And so the storyline was really built around the kids finding a time machine that took them back in history, and it took them back where they could meet historical characters and then make it back by the time recess is about to be completed so they can go back to class. And so it really, for me, Samaya, was about a young person being able to use their imagination as to what would it look like if I went back and met certain type of figures. What conversation would I have? What would I learn? That then maybe perhaps I come back to my present day. I go back into my classroom, either go home, and did my imagination or did that idea of going back in time, did it do something for me? And hopefully, when kids interact with this book, they can see themselves as individuals who can use their imagination to meet whoever it is that they want to do. Meet somebody from the past, or maybe meet somebody in the future, or meet somebody current day, and be the best that they can be in their own lives after that encounter. And so hopefully it encourages kids to use their imagination to be the best that they can be. Being imaginative is real crucial because for some young people, whatever it is that they may be going through currently or presently, may be in unhealthy circumstances. They may be going some things that maybe perhaps someone their age typically doesn't have to deal with. And so imaginations allows us not to so much disappear and create a false reality, but it allows us to be able to think past our circumstances and to even use that imagination for creativity, use that imagination for inspiration, use that imagination for motivation as to what could be. Sometimes I just like the young people who read the book, I encourage them to say, if you had an opportunity to go back and past, who would you meet? Maybe perhaps it is somebody who is in a historical figure, somebody who's famous, or maybe it's a relative. Maybe it's somebody who played a significant role inside of your life that you don't see anymore. But it allows them to be able to use their imagination so they can grasp a level of hope that whatever their condition is right now may perhaps be momentarily, because they can lift themselves out, because they can believe that whatever good that can transpire from our past can also make it to our future.
That is powerful. Whatever good that transpired from our past will also make it to our future. I think that your mission and your vision is very apparent. It's very clear and it's going to change lives. And I want to thank you for taking the time to write not only this book, but all of the books that you have written to be an effective agent of change, not just as a pastor and not only as someone who was highly influential, but I've looked around and I've seen you with your sleeves rolled up and working in the community, and your name is just resounding in the community, and you're busy serving. So you practice what you preach. So this isn't just a book, this is a method to what you are pushing forth, and you are affecting change in your community. And I want to thank you for that. Thank you for investing in the lives of young people. Again, not just with this book, but you've invested in the lives of people of all ages. Taking the time to consider children and to consider their needs and what they need to learn, and not allowing the erasure of very important historical figures and concepts and different events that have taken place, for that not to be buried underground, but to really just package it in a way that's really tangible and relatable to kids where they can really enjoy it and learn from it. I just want to thank you again. And I also want to thank you for being here on Sumaya Unveiled and for sharing your vision, thoughts, and process behind it all. And just for answering the call, thank you so much, Dr. Hairston.
No, I appreciate, the opportunity to come on and share. And again, I just want to echo it again. I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm proud of what you're creating, and I'm proud that you are helping to create a platform that's going to reach, in some cases, those who we may not be able to reach, or even expand those who are within the reach. And so I think that everybody who's ever been connected to you, man, is having a smile moment right now because of what you're doing. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for watching Sumaya Unveiled. By the way, if you enjoyed what you saw, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, True identity is not an occupation. True identity is not a role. True identity is who you are unveiled. I'll see you next time.